course, when we refer to the competitive environment of the public sector, it is very much in quotation marks. What we're actually meaning, of course, is simply considering all the different organisations that operate around you. You're looking for organisations that might help you, potential allies, but also for those who may oppose you, because you need to understand all about if you're going to be successful about strategy formulation. In many ways, in the public sector, it can be very intense. Part of the problem, of course, is that competition isn't just about money. It can be much more complex than that, and you need to understand that and how you're going to operate in that area. I'm using public sector in the broadest possible definition. If you remember the continuum of public sector, you'll see there are a lot of different definitions and different things that can fall in there. So let's ask what is it you want to know about the organisation around you, the competitors, and also the potential allies, etc. Obviously, you want to know what their strengths and their weaknesses are. You've got to get some idea of what they're doing. You must understand what their objectives are. They will probably have public objectives. Do you believe they are the real ones? You need to analyse what they're doing to see if they're actually that is the way they're behaving. You need to see, therefore, how they react to other external variables. Are they after particular social groups, political groups, demographics? And what vulnerability have they to you? Remember, you have to know yourself and know your enemy. And you must know all that is around you for you to be successful. So what do you need to know then? Other key questions. Vulnerability, successful strategic counterattack. How are you positioned relative to the environment, both in terrain and in real theoretical ideas, compared to how they are positioned? How easy for it is them to enter and exit the areas in which you're working? Remember, always leave a trapped army a way to escape. Try not to trap them so they are forced to fight you if you can avoid it. What are the key factors that maintain where you are? So what do you need to sort out about your rival organisations? Well, again, you need to work out their strengths, their weaknesses, their capabilities, their objectives, the same as for potential collaborators. But the important thing to remember at rival organisations is it is not just the opposition. In the continuum of the public sector, it can be very much a case of the fact that organisations that have the same aim as you, maybe within your country, within your organisation, in your ministry, but actually need your resources, or they may well feel that they have a different aim of which they're trying to deal with, which are trying to go ahead and actually achieve things, but they might have a different end to the same means. So it's very important to be very, very aware of exactly what potential collaborators, potential rivals are. As we'll also see later, rivals are not necessarily rivals. Some people who will appear to be rivals may actually have subtle behind the scenes connections. You will also have to consider a large number of other environmental elements that may affect you. You need to look around you for strategic customers, for opinion formers, for pressure groups. But it's also important to remember something key here. It might well be that particular organisations and groups don't exist. Well, you're big, powerful organisations sometimes in the public sector, large non-governmental organisations. It may be possible to create them. And we see this all the time with the creation of grassroots movements, some of which are genuine and are co-opted, some of which are funded by external governments, some of which we look to develop in special ways, and it can be quite a long payoff. I mean, it's very interesting if you look at the history of the Communist Party in the United States, an organisation which is effectively moribund now, but today you do see elements of its campaigns for civil rights and for its certain organisationals coming true. Just because certain people denounce something as a communist plot doesn't mean that communists were not involved in the plotting of it, and the civil rights movement did heavily influenced by the United States Communist Party, which was the only integrated political party in America in the interwar period. In the long term, it didn't do the Soviet Union any good, but it certainly there are certain reasons why American communists can be proud of some of the things they achieved, right up to the election of Obama and to some of the other things that have been caused about by that. Should be looking for political allies, people who may be allied with you. Again, you can create these. Perhaps you will look in the countries in Africa and the part of the game where you could actually look to set up local organisations. You might support trade unions, you might support resistance movements, you might support civil society if you think they're going to go in the same way as you want them. And this is true of the real world. This is how it actually operates quite a lot of the time. You must identify what are your success factors. It isn't so just about profit, is it? You must know what actually is the cause of your success and must know what you're targeting. It may well be that some people who you think of as being your opposition don't actually have different critical success factors to you. You must consider the various strategic groups that operate around you, and you must look to them, bring them together as alliances to support you or to create competition or whatever. You can try to form these things. So you see people trying to form trade union groups. You see people trying to form alliances with the public sector. You see like things like sometimes quite radical things like public anti-cuts movements, anti-war movements, but also you see organisations set up by governments in order to umbrella different organisations together and look at international things. See the pressure in the Middle East at the moment, where there's attempts to try and get various factors that oppose the Syrian government to work together and things like that. But you must also be aware of the fact that not all people, as I've said earlier, that may appear to be rivals are actually rivals. And the two examples I use are, one of them is Greenpeace, which often condemns Sea Shepherd, which condemns the MV Irwin, but actually has quite a good relationship with some more radical environmental campaigners. Greenpeace is the public face that can talk to governments. Sometimes they will actually need people to be more radical than them. So, for instance, the MV Steve Irwin, part of Sea Shepherd, is the anti-whaling group that tries to board Japanese whalers in the Antarctic, hunts them down, tries to cut them off from the whales, tries to protect the whales. Greenpeace condemns them. But has it ever occurred to you, how do Sea Shepherd find the whalers? Well, actually, they do so with the information provided to Greenpeace by sympathetic governments and by the fact that Greenpeace is a powerful organisation with lots of money and can find these things, which the MV Stephen Irwin could not do. If the MV Steve Irwin sailed into the Antarctic without the support of Greenpeace, he would never find a Japanese whaler. And of course, the Red Cross and Médecins Sans Frontières, Red Cross or Red Crescent or Red Star of David, completely independent, does not involve itself in any way with politics, treats all without favour, and often works closely with governments. Médecins Sans Frontières will condemn governments, works on the cutting edge. So there will be times when Red Cross will feed information to Médecins Sans Frontières in order to make them speak out, and there'll be times when Médecins Sans Frontières will ask the Red Cross to get involved somewhere where they know they cannot, because they'll be seen as supporting one side that they do not support, whereas the Red Cross neutral. So I think of all these things, well, the key things you must know that instead of critical facts of the organisation is vital. It was what people are after. So, for instance, in the local government, it may well be they're looking for prompt service or effective treatment, academic achievement, clean streets, safe neighbourhoods, secure borders, all organisations of such critical success factors. Commercial environment organisations will seek to perform these critical success factors better than their competitors. The public service environment, only often these success factors will be measured by public opinion and research feedback. So where do you find out about all things? Well, it's the same thing as we've done with Pestle, etc. Newspapers, academic conferences, paintings, scenario writing, web surfing. They'll be very careful about the quality of the information. And there are various other things that you might want to think about, so think very carefully about them. How is the methodology? As I've said before, brainstorm it, assess and discard them, write it on post-it notes. You can bring them back and take them out as required. And then once you've done that, group all the posts together into an infinity diagram. This is simply a systems diagram, like the one that we showed before, where you actually have a series of things inside the boundary and maybe outside the boundary, where you place all those ideas that come out of the thing on this competitive environment in little groups, where they were, exactly where they fall, etc., and then see how they are linked and placed together. It is simply a process that helps to get you thinking, as has been said many times. It's not in itself an answer.